Captain Zix 427 stood on the pristine bridge of the Stellar Precision, admiring how every control panel gleamed with the exact same intensity, 47.3 lumens, to be precise. The air recyclers hummed at exactly 42.7 decibels, creating what they considered to be the perfect working atmosphere. Everything was in its designated place, just as it should be. Captain First Officer Nixis 8 called out, their three eye stalks twitching in perfect synchronization. The quarterly efficiency report shows we're operating at 99.98% capacity. Unacceptable, Zix 427 replied, their crystalline exoskeleton catching the artificial light. What's causing the 0.02% deviation? Sir, it appears the quantum flux capacitors are operating at slightly below optimal temperatures, approximately 0.003 degrees below standard. Zix 427's mandibles clicked in disapproval. They had spent the last 15 cycles building the perfect crew. Every member was chosen based on their adherence to the Galactic Standard Operating Procedures, version 247.8 billion. The Centaurian way was the efficient way, and efficiency meant survival in the vast expanse of space. The door to the bridge whooshed open with a precise hydraulic hiss, although Zix 427 noted it was perhaps 0.02 seconds slower than usual. They made a mental note to have maintenance check the door servos. Captain Administrative Officer Krell 90 entered, clutching a datapad so tightly their tentacles had turned a lighter shade of blue. We have received a directive from Central Command. Proceed. As per the new Galactic Integration Initiative, all ships in the fleet must now include Krell 90's voice trembled, causing a slight fluctuation in their bioluminescent spots. At least one human crew member. The bridge fell silent. Even the air recyclers seemed to pause their perfect hum. Impossible, Zix 427 declared. Humans are chaos incarnate. Their very presence disrupts established protocols. Did you know they actually use something called eyeballing it as a measurement technique? Sir Krell 90 continued, the directive is non-negotiable. Central Command claims humans have shown remarkable problem-solving abilities in crisis situations. They believe their unique perspectives could benefit the fleet. Unique perspectives, Zix 427 scoffed. Last cycle, a human engineer fixed a quantum drive with something they called duct tape and paperclips. The mere thought of such improvisation makes my secondary heart valve flutter. The paperclip incident has been documented extensively, Nixis 8 interjected. Despite its unorthodox nature, the repair held for 3 times longer than a standard replacement would have. Zix 427 paced the bridge, their crystalline feet clicking against the floor in a perfectly timed rhythm. The thought of introducing chaos into their perfectly ordered world was almost too much to process. But orders were orders, and if there was one thing Centaurians respected more than efficiency, it was the chain of command. Very well, they finally conceded. Begin the search for a suitable human candidate. But they must at least attempt to follow our protocols. I want someone who can understand the importance of precision and order. About that, Sir Krell 90's spots flickered anxiously. Central Command has already selected our new crew member. They'll be arriving next cycle. Next cycle, Zix 427's exoskeleton rattled in shock. That's hardly enough time to update our standard operating procedures. We need at least 3 cycles to properly integrate new protocols. They said something about ripping off the band-aid, quickly Krell 90 reported, clearly confused by the human phrase. Zix 427 sank into their command chair, which adjusted to their exact preferred angle of 127.4 degrees. The universe tests us, they muttered. Very well. Prepare for the humans' arrival. And someone please explain to me what a band-aid is and why it needs to be ripped off. As the crew bustled to prepare for their new arrival, Zix 427 couldn't shake the feeling that their perfectly ordered world was about to be turned upside down. Little did they know, upside down was just the beginning. Captain Zix 427 stood ramrod straight in the docking bay, surrounded by their equally rigid crew members, all waiting for their new human engineer. The bay had been cleaned to exactly 99.99% sterility levels, the highest achievable, without replacing all the air with vacuum. The airlock cycled with a pneumatic hiss, and through the mist stepped Alex Chen, whistling a tune that completely disrupted the ship's carefully maintained acoustic harmony. They carried what appeared to be an ancient Earth toolbox covered in colorful stickers, including one that proclaimed, when in doubt, hit it with a wrench. Yo, Alex waved enthusiastically, nearly dropping a bag that made concerning clinking noises. Hope you don't mind, but I brought my own tools. The standard issue ones are great and all, but sometimes you need that special touch, you know. Zix 427's mandibles twitched. Engineer Chen, welcome aboard the Stellar Precision. I trust you've memorized all 2,547 standard operating procedures. Oh, those manuals, Alex grinned, running a hand through their perpetually messy hair. Skimmed them. Got the gist. Don't worry, Captain Z. I'm pretty good at learning on the job, Captain. Z, the Centaurian's crystalline structure, nearly cracked from shock. My designation is Captain Zix 427, and I expect. A loud crash interrupted them as Alex's toolbox slipped, spilling its contents across the immaculate floor. The crew watched in horror as screwdrivers, wrenches, and mysterious devices rolled in every direction, completely destroying the bay's perfect organization system. Oops, my bad, Alex dove after a rolling socket wrench, somehow managing to knock over a perfectly aligned rack of maintenance drones in the process. Don't worry, I know where everything is. Organized chaos. That's my system. First Officer Nix's 8's eye stalks began twitching independently, a sure sign of extreme distress. But the organization protocols clearly state that all tools must be arranged by size, function, and galactic standard classification number. Oh man, wait until you see what I can do with these babies, Alex said, holding up what appeared to be a pair of needle-nose pliers. Once fixed a quantum fluctuator with these, 2 rubber bands, and a paperclip. Good times. The maintenance crew, led by Chief Engineer Vrol 52, collectively gasped. One of them actually fainted, their gelatinous body making a soft splat on the deck. Speaking of which, Alex continued, completely oblivious to the growing horror around them. I noticed your port thrusters got a bit of a wobble. Nothing in the readings, but you can feel it in the deck plating. Mind if I take a look? Feel it in the Zix 427 was practically vibrating with confusion. Our sensors show all systems operating within acceptable parameters. Yeah, but sometimes you gotta trust the gut. You know, Alex was already heading toward the engine room, leaving a trail of disorganized toolbox contents in their wake. Besides, these old Mark 7 thrusters always get a bit funky around the 100,000 light-year mark. Just need a little love. The crew followed in horrified fascination as Alex made their way through the ship, somehow managing to violate 17 different protocols just in their walking style alone. They reached the engine room, and before anyone could stop them, Alex had already pulled open a maintenance panel that wasn't scheduled for inspection for another 3 cycles. Ah-ha-ha, they exclaimed triumphantly, half their body disappearing into the access shaft. Just as I thought. The quantum alignment's off by like a smidge. Hey, smidge. Chief Engineer Vrol 52 looked ready to dissolve into their base compounds. That's not a recognized unit of measurement. Trust me, Alex's voice echoed from inside the panel, accompanied by sounds that definitely weren't in any maintenance manual. Little adjustment here, tiny tweak there. And done. The entire ship seemed to shift slightly, and suddenly the barely perceptible vibration that nobody except Alex had noticed vanished. How did you? Zix 427 began, but Alex was already moving on to the next thing that had caught their attention. Hey, is that your main computer core? The casing looks a little warm. Mind if I take a peek? Got this great cooling solution involving some ice cube trays and a fan from my grandmother's attic. As Alex bounded off toward their next target of improvisation, Zix 427 turned to their first officer. Nixis 8, please tell me this is all just a processing error in my primary consciousness matrix. I wish I could, Captain Nixis 8 replied, watching Alex somehow juggle 3 different tools while walking. I wish I could. In just 15 minutes aboard the Stellar Precision, Alex Chen had managed to destroy every notion of order the crew held dear. And somehow, inexplicably, the ship was running better than ever. 3 cycles into Alex Chen's tenure aboard the Stellar Precision, the ship encountered what the crew would later refer to as the incident, though, if you asked Alex, they'd just call it Tuesday. Captain Nixis 8's eye stalks were spinning in complete disorder, a clear violation of proper officer comportment. Long-range sensors have detected an unexpected asteroid field. Unexpected. Zix 427's crystalline structure vibrated with concern. That's impossible. All asteroid fields are mapped and documented according to Regulation 375B, subsection 12. It appears to be a newly formed field, sir. Preliminary analysis suggests a recent planetary collision. The massive view screen showed a chaotic mess of rocks tumbling through space, completely disregarding proper celestial body organization protocols. Even worse, they were directly in the ship's path. Initiate Standard Evasion Protocol Lambda 7, ordered Zix 427, their voice steady despite the crisis. Nothing happened. Engineering reports the maneuvering thrusters are not responding, Nixis 8 announced. The automated systems are frozen. Have they tried the emergency restart sequence? All 47 steps must be completed in exact order. The entire system is locked, sir. Chief Engineer Role 52 says it would take at least 2 hours to complete the manual override sequence. We have approximately 12 minutes before impact, the navigation officer helpfully added. Just then, Alex burst onto the bridge, carrying their ever-present toolbox and what appeared to be. Was that a coffee mug balanced on their head? Heard we've got thruster trouble, they announced cheerfully. Don't worry, I've got a plan. Engineer Chen Zix 427's voice carried the weight of countless regulations. The proper procedure in this situation clearly states, Yeah, 47 steps, button A into slot B, yada yada yada. Alex was already prying open a control panel that absolutely should not have been opened without filling out form TR 789 in triplicate. But you know what's faster? This, to the horror of every being on the bridge. Alex pulled out a roll of duct tape, 3 paper clips, what appeared to be a bendy straw. And was that a rubber chicken? Engineer Chen Zix 427's exoskeleton was practically crackling with stress. The use of non-standard materials in critical ship systems is strictly forbidden by. Look, Alex interrupted, somehow managing to splice wires while simultaneously drinking coffee and keeping the rubber chicken tucked under one arm. We can either follow the manual and become very well-organized space debris, or we can try my way and maybe not die. Your choice, Captain Z. Zix 427 felt their secondary processor having what humans would call a nervous breakdown. Every fiber of their being screamed against this violation of protocol, but those asteroids were getting awfully close. You have 4 minutes, they finally declared, causing several crew members to emit distress pheromones. Alex's face lit up with a grin that somehow managed to be both reassuring and terrifying. They immediately dove headfirst into the open panel, feet kicking in the air as they worked. Okay, so if we reroute the main power through this paperclip, use the bendy straw to bypass the lock circuit, and just a little bit of duct tape here to hold it all together. Their voice was muffled but enthusiastic. Hey, someone toss me that rubber chicken. Against all proper regulations, First Officer Nixis 8 actually complied, their eye stalks refusing to look directly at this breach of protocol. Perfect. Now, the squeaker in this thing is exactly the right size too. There we go, Alex emerged, hair standing on end and face smudged with some unidentifiable substance. Try it now. Impact in 30 seconds, announced navigation. Zix 427 looked at their perfectly organized bridge, now scattered with debris and duct tape fragments. They looked at their crew, their perfectly maintained order now in shambles. They looked at the approaching asteroids, absolutely refusing to follow any sort of proper space traffic regulations. Engage thrusters, they ordered, silently apologizing to every regulation they were currently breaking. The ship lurched sideways with more agility than should have been possible for a vessel its size. The jury-rigged controls responded perfectly as they wove through the asteroid field, the very laws of physics seeming to bend around their unorthodox modifications. 5 minutes later, they emerged on the other side, completely unscathed. The bridge was silent except for the slightly off-key squeaking of the rubber chicken, still wedged somewhere in the control panel. How Zix 427 finally managed to ask, "How did you know that would work?" Oh, easy, Alex was already gathering their tools, somehow managing to get duct tape stuck in their hair. The rubber chicken squeaker creates a vibration at just the right frequency to unstick the frozen mechanics. The bendy straw provides a perfect bypass conduit, and everyone knows duct tape fixes everything. Basic engineering, but Chief Engineer Role 52 had emerged from engineering, their tentacles twisted in knots of confusion. The regulations clearly state, sometimes you gotta think outside the box, Alex shrugged, then paused. Actually, sometimes you gotta think outside the known universe. And occasionally you gotta take the box, turn it into a makeshift servo controller, and duct tape it to a rubber chicken. Zix 427 looked at their ship's logs, which were now showing higher efficiency ratings than ever before, despite or perhaps because of the completely unauthorized modifications. They looked at their crew, who were starting to eye the rubber chicken with something approaching respect. They looked at Alex, who was attempting to untangle the duct tape from their hair while simultaneously making improvements to 3 different systems. For the first time in their perfectly ordered life, Captain Zix 427 wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was something to be said for a little chaos. Engineer Chen, they announced, causing the bridge crew to freeze in anticipation. You will submit a complete report on these modifications. Eventually, when convenient, Alex's grin could have powered the ship's engines. Aye aye, Captain Z. Now, about that weird noise in the cafeteria replicator, I've got this great idea involving a tennis ball and some bubble gum. The first sign that things were changing aboard the Stellar Precision came when Captain Zix 427 caught First Officer Nixis 8 bobbing their eye stalks to something called rock and roll while analyzing quantum fluctuation reports. First Officer Zix 427 began, ready to cite Regulation 472B regarding appropriate workspace acoustics, but stopped short. The reports were completed 43% faster than usual, with a 12% increase in accuracy. Sorry, Captain Nixis 8 quickly turned off the music. Alex mentioned something about getting in the zone with background noise. I thought it was preposterous, but it works. Zix 427 finished, their crystalline structure humming thoughtfully. Carry on. The next shocking development occurred in engineering, where Chief Engineer Vrol 52's maintenance team had adopted something called a coffee break. The concept of voluntarily interrupting work for non-essential nutrient consumption was absolutely foreign to Centaurian culture. Chief Engineer Zix 427 approached the break room, where the entire engineering team was gathered around what appeared to be a heavily modified replicator. Would you care to explain why your team is not following the standard continuous work cycle? Vrol 52's tentacles curled nervously around a mug that proclaimed world's okayest engineer, a gift from Alex. Well, sir, we found that these short breaks actually increase our efficiency. After Alex introduced us to this coffee substance, our problem-solving capabilities increased by 27.3%. Plus, added one of the junior engineers, their bioluminescent spots glowing with enthusiasm. During these breaks, we often come up with creative solutions to mechanical issues. Yesterday, we fixed the waste recycling system using a rubber duck and some dental floss. Zix 427 felt their secondary processor twitch. And this solution works better than the original design, sir. Alex calls it thinking outside the box while caffeinated. The changes didn't stop there. The navigation team started using what they called gut feelings alongside their calculations. The communications officers began incorporating human expressions into their reports, leading to some very interesting translations. Even the ship's AI had developed what it called a sense of humor. The turning point came during the monthly efficiency review. The numbers were unprecedented: productivity up 45%, problem resolution time down 60%, crew satisfaction levels at an all-time high. And yet, not a single standard protocol was being followed exactly as written. Captain Alex burst into the meeting room, carrying what appeared to be a modified drone decorated with tiny paper umbrellas. You've got to see this. I taught the maintenance bots to dance while they clean. Increases their coverage pattern by 32%, and they haven't crashed into a wall in days. True to their word. A small parade of maintenance drones whirred past the door, smoothly executing something that looked suspiciously like the robot dance while perfectly polishing the floors. Engineer Chen Zix 427 began, then paused as they noticed their own crystalline foot tapping in rhythm with the drones. The integration of recreational movements into maintenance protocols is awesome? Revolutionary? The best thing since sliced bread? Speaking of which, you've got to try this new program I wrote for the food replicator. It makes something called toast that's actually edible. Before anyone could protest, Alex was already heading to the mess hall, the dancing drones following like a line of rhythmic ducklings. Later that cycle, Zix 427 stood on their bridge, observing their crew. Nix's 8 was humming while working, their eye stalks swaying in perfect harmony. The navigation team had decorated their consoles with something called bobbleheads, which supposedly helped them focus. The security team had started a betting pool on which of Alex's improvised repairs would last the longest. The rubber chicken setup was currently in the lead. And strangest of all, everything worked better than ever. Captain Alex appeared beside them, somehow managing to balance a coffee mug, a tablet, and what looked like a half-disassembled quantum spanner. The crew's organizing a karaoke night in the cargo bay. We've already soundproofed it with bubble wrap and those packing peanuts we found in storage. Want to join? Zix 427 looked at their once perfectly ordered ship, now a harmonious blend of chaos and efficiency. They thought about all the regulations being cheerfully ignored, all the protocols being creatively reinterpreted, all the standard procedures being improved with rubber ducks and duct tape. Engineer Chen, they said slowly, their crystalline structure catching the light in a way that almost looked like a smile. Are you suggesting that I, a Centaurian captain, participate in an unauthorized musical gathering? Well, when you put it that way, Alex grinned. Very well, Zix 427 straightened to their full height. As captain, I should monitor this activity, for efficiency purposes, of course. Of course, Alex agreed solemnly, then brightened. Wait till you hear the song I picked out for you, Break the Rules by Charlie XCX. It's perfect. As they followed Alex to the cargo bay, passing a group of security officers practicing something called air guitar, Zix 427 realized something profound. Perhaps the true measure of efficiency wasn't in following rules perfectly, but in knowing when to break them perfectly. Besides, they had to admit those dancing maintenance drones were pretty impressive. The stellar precision was cruising through a particularly dull section of space when everything went sideways. Literally. Captain Nix's 8 called out, their eye stalks rigid with alarm. 3 vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. Energy signatures match known space pirate configurations. Fascinating, Zix 427 noted. Their formation violates at least 7 different space traffic regulations. The largest pirate ship, sporting what appeared to be flame decals, a clear violation of proper spacecraft aesthetics, opened a communication channel. Attention, boring-looking ship, a gravelly voice announced. This is Captain Razorblade McBlasterface of the Deadly Doom Brigade. Surrender your cargo or wait. Is that maintenance drone dancing? Indeed, one of Alex's modified cleaning bots was happily moonwalking across the bridge, dusting as it went. Before Zix 427 could respond, the ship rocked violently. The pirates, apparently not appreciating impromptu robot choreography, had opened fire. Shields at 42%, and falling, reported the defense officer. The pirates are using some kind of quantum disruption beam. Initiate defensive protocol Gamma 9, ordered Zix 427, their crystalline structure vibrating with controlled tension. Nothing happened. Sir, the weapons systems are completely offline. The disruption beam has frozen all our standard defense protocols. Another hit rocked the ship. In the background, the maintenance drone continued its dance routine, now adding a rather impressive spin move. Where is Engineer Chen? Zix 427 demanded, just as the bridge doors whooshed open. Alex burst in, their hair wild, arms full of what appeared to be kitchen appliances and maintenance tools. Sorry, I'm late. Had to grab some supplies from the mess hall. Engineer Chen, this is hardly the time for Zix 427 began, but Alex was already dumping their collection onto the bridge floor. Okay, so here's the plan, Alex interrupted, sorting through the pile. We've got 3 toasters, the quantum spanner, that rubber chicken from last time, the ship's main coffee maker, and oh yeah, I borrowed all the forks from the mess hall. The bridge crew stared in horror as Alex began rapidly disassembling the appliances. Engineer Chen Nix's 8 ventured carefully. How exactly will eating utensils help against quantum-based weapons? Simple Alex was now somehow wielding both a soldering iron and a whisk. The quantum disruption beam works on standard frequencies, right? But if we reverse the polarity of these toasters, channel it through the coffee maker's heating element, and use the forks as conductors. That's completely absurd, Chief Engineer Vrol 52 protested, then paused. Though, theoretically, if we calibrated the resonance frequency of the forks to match the ship's shield harmonics, exactly, Alex beamed. Now you're thinking like a human. Quick, help me attach these to the shield generator, and someone grab that dancing drone, I need its gyroscopic stabilizer. The next few minutes were a blur of activity that violated approximately 248 different safety protocols. Alex and Vrol 52 worked in perfect chaos, their movements a strange dance of precision and improvisation. The rest of the engineering team, now well versed in Alex's particular brand of madness, jumped in to help. Quantum fork array ready, Alex announced proudly, gesturing to what looked like a modern art sculpture made of kitchen implements and spare parts. The rubber chicken sat atop it all like a bizarre crown. Sir, the tactical officer reported, the pirates are charging weapons for another volley. Zix 427 looked at their options. Option 1, follow standard protocols and be destroyed. Option 2, trust in the insane genius of their human engineer and their newly chaos-embracing crew. Engineer Chen, they said firmly, activate your device. Alex slammed the power connection home. The rubber chicken squeaked triumphantly. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The quantum fork array hummed to life, each utensil vibrating at a slightly different frequency. The coffee maker's heating element glowed with an otherworldly light, and the toasters. The toasters started shooting actual toast into space. Don't worry about the toast, Alex assured everyone. That's supposed to happen. Probably. The next pirate blast hit their shields and bounced back, amplified by the improvised array. The pirates' ship spun wildly as their own weapon was reflected back at them, now modulated through what appeared to be breakfast-based frequencies. By the galactic standard, Nix's 8 exclaimed, their eye stalks twisted in disbelief. It's actually working. Quick, Alex called out. While their systems are disrupted, you know what would really confuse them? Get the maintenance drones out there. The cleaning robots Zix 427 asked, but their crew was already moving. Maintenance hatches opened all along the hull, releasing a swarm of dancing cleaning drones into space. They spun and twirled between the ships, their modified cleaning lasers now creating a dazzling display that completely confused the pirates' targeting systems. Are those robots doing the Macarena? Captain Razorblade McBlusterface's confused voice came over the comms, and the electric slide, Alex added proudly. Took me 3 days to program that routine. The pirates, faced with a ship that turned their weapons against them, while pelting them with toast and surrounded by a zero-gravity robot dance party, did the only sensible thing: they fled. As the last pirate ship disappeared into hyperspace, the bridge erupted in cheers. The maintenance drones performed a synchronized victory spin before returning to the ship, several of them still clutching pieces of space toast. Engineer Chen Zix 427 addressed Alex, who was trying to untangle themselves from a nest of wires while simultaneously high-fiving the engineering team. Your solution was unorthodox, violated approximately 372 different regulations, and defied several laws of physics. But it worked, Alex grinned, finally freeing themselves only to trip over the rubber chicken. Indeed, Zix 427's crystalline structure caught the light in what was definitely a smile. I believe this calls for a celebration. First Officer Nix's 8, please organize an emergency karaoke session in the cargo bay. Already on it, Sir Nix's 8 replied, their eye stalks bobbing excitedly. The maintenance drones are setting up the disco ball they made from spare sensor array parts. As the crew headed off to celebrate, Zix 427 surveyed their bridge. The quantum fork array still hummed softly, occasionally shooting out a piece of toast. The rubber chicken had somehow acquired a tiny captain's hat, and their once perfectly ordered ship had never run better. Engineer Chen, they called out as Alex was leaving. Next time, perhaps give me some warning before turning our kitchen supplies into weapons of mass confusion. Where's the fun in that, Captain Z? Alex winked. Besides, wait till you see what I can do with the vegetable peeler and the spare quantum capacitors. Zix 427 made a mental note to update their emergency protocols. They needed a new section titled "In Case of Alex." It would probably need to be written in crayon. 6 months after the Great Space Pirate Dance-Off incident, as it was now officially logged in the ship's records, the Stellar Precision received an unexpected transmission from Galactic Command. Captain Zix 427, the holographic form of High Commander Regal X, materialized on the bridge. We've reviewed your ship's performance metrics for the past cycle. Zix 427 stood perfectly at attention, trying to ignore the maintenance drone that was quietly practicing breakdancing moves in the corner. Yes, High Commander. Your efficiency ratings are. The commander paused, adjusting their ceremonial antenna, unprecedented. Though your methods are, shall we say, unique. On cue, a piece of toast shot across the bridge, a remnant of Alex's still-installed defense system that occasionally activated when someone made coffee. We've taken particular interest in your report about the pirate incident, Regal X continued. Though I must admit several terms required clarification. What exactly is a robot conga line? Before Zix 427 could respond, Alex's voice echoed from inside a nearby maintenance shaft. Oh, I can demonstrate that. Just need to upload the new subroutines to Whoops. A cascade of rubber ducks tumbled out of the shaft, followed by Alex, who somehow managed to land in a perfect roll while holding a mug of coffee without spilling a drop. Engineer Chen Zix 427 acknowledged with what had become their standard mix of exasperation and fondness. Perhaps now is not the time for. Actually, Rigel X interrupted, their antenna twitching with interest. I'd very much like to see this demonstration. What followed was perhaps the first time in Galactic Command history that a formal review ended with a conga line of high-ranking officials being led by maintenance drones through a starship's corridors. Later that cycle, after the command staff had departed still humming something called EMCA, Zix 427 stood on their bridge, reflecting on how much had changed. The once rigidly organized command center now sported an eclectic mix of efficiency and chaos. Star charts were annotated with drawings of cats Alex insisted they helped with spatial awareness. The quantum fork array had become a permanent fixture, occasionally serving breakfast during emergency maneuvers. Even the ship's AI had developed a taste for knock-knock-knock jokes. Captain Z. Alex bounded onto the bridge, carrying what appeared to be a lava lamp modified with quantum crystals. "You won't believe what I just figured out. If we integrate this with the navigation systems, we can make the ship do loop-de-loops." Engineer Chen Zix 427 began, then paused. "Will it improve our performance by at least 25%? Plus, it looks super cool. Proceed." Nix's 8, who had long since given up maintaining proper eye stalk alignment protocols, swiveled all three eyes toward their captain. "Sir, remember when you used to quote regulations about unauthorized modifications?" Indeed, Zix 427's crystalline structure hummed thoughtfully. "Though I've come to realize that perhaps the true spirit of efficiency isn't in following rules perfectly, but in knowing when to let chaos work its magic." As if to emphasize their point, the ship's mess hall replicator chose that moment to start playing disco music, a quirk that had somehow improved its food quality by 47%. Word spread quickly through the fleet about the Stellar Precision's unconventional success. Other ships began requesting temporary transfers to learn their methods, though most left more confused than enlightened. How do you explain in a formal report that the secret to improved quantum drive performance was a combination of rubber ducks, hot sauce, and what Alex called good vibes? "You know," Alex said, "watching their latest invention, a coffee maker that somehow also improved Shield Harmonics hum to life, when I first came aboard, I thought you guys would never accept my methods. And I thought you would destroy everything we stood for," Zix 427 admitted. "Instead, you showed us that order and chaos aren't opposites, they're dance partners." Speaking of dancing, Alex grinned. "Wait till you see what I taught the escape pods to do." As their human engineer rushed off to demonstrate yet another protocol-breaking improvement, Captain Zix 427 looked around at their perfectly imperfect ship. The maintenance drones waltzed as they worked. The crew hummed as they monitored their stations, each console now a unique blend of precision engineering and creative modifications. Even the ship's computer had started ending its announcements with cowabunga. This wasn't the Stellar Precision they had originally captained. It was better. Besides, they thought, as another piece of toast asked gracefully through the air, who would want a boring old normal ship when you could have organized chaos at its finest? Somewhere in the distance, a rubber chicken squeaked in agreement.